OutDaughtered, star Danielle Busby responds to backlash following decision to homeschool quintuplets. You're wrong. The reality star defended her family's decision to homeschool their daughters as they enter 6th grade. OutDaughtered stars Adam and Danielle Busby just shared some huge family news. They decided to homeschool their quintuplets during the upcoming 6th grade school year. The couple, who are parents to 6 children including Blake, 14, and 10-year-old Quince, Hazel, Riley, Parker, Ava, and Olivia, shared the update during the February 26th episode of their More Than Reality podcast. While they explained that the decision took a lot of conversation and prayer, they felt that it was right for their family, but not all of their followers agreed. Although the couple have spent months hinting that homeschool might be in their future, the announcement divided TLC fans, many of whom did not feel that the couple were equipped to be educators for so many young girls. Following the podcast going live, Adam spent some time clapping back at negative comments on social media, while Danielle chose to speak out in an Instagram story. Let me just tell you something. 1. You sound like the doctors that told me I wasn't going to survive having quintuplets and they were going to survive, Danielle began. 2. If you think I can't, you're wrong because 3. God provides me strength, energy, courage, wisdom, all the things I need. She continued, I wouldn't be doing homeschool co-op next semester if it wasn't something he placed on my heart for me to really do. So sometimes we have to change the pace of life and go outside of what we necessarily want and do what's best for the calling he has on our life. Danielle went on to say that she does have hesitations about her capabilities as a teacher, but knows that God will put her family on the right path. I do not feel equipped in my own strength and capabilities to homeschool the Quints. It's overwhelming, it's a lot, but guess what? God is bigger, and he's called me to this, so I'm stepping into that, she said. Danielle continued, I'm trusting in him to provide me with all the things because he would not have put this in my plan if he didn't want me to do that. It's very outside of what I want to do with my life. Maybe it's not what I want, but it's what he wants for our life, so we're stepping into that, and I'm going to show you that we're going to thrive through this. While she noted that she knows everyone has a right to their own opinion, she says her family is going to continue to do what's best for them. Danielle concluded by telling viewers that if they don't agree with her, they are more than welcome to unfollow. I'm sorry if we feel called to do something and God has laid it out in front of us. We're going to follow that, not all of the comments that y'all are negatively putting in here, she said. When it comes to reality TV families, few have opened their lives as completely and honestly as the Busbys. Ever since audiences were introduced to them on OutDaughtered, viewers have watched the chaos, the joy, the milestones, and the challenges of raising the only all-girl quintuplets in the United States. Over the years, fans have seen birthdays, first days of school, family vacations, health scares, and emotional parenting moments. And through it all, one thing has remained constant: Danielle Busby's fierce dedication to her daughters. So when Danielle Busby made the decision to homeschool the quintuplets, she likely expected questions. But what she may not have expected was the level of backlash that followed. The internet had opinions. Lots of them. Some critics questioned whether homeschooling 5 children at once, especially children who have grown up in public school environments, would limit their social development. Others accused her of pulling the girls out for the wrong reasons. And as always with social media, some comments crossed the line from curiosity into outright judgment. But Danielle didn't stay silent. She responded, and her message was clear. You're wrong. Now let's take a step back for a moment. For years on OutDaughtered, fans watched the Busby girls navigate preschool, kindergarten, elementary milestones, friendships, and school routines. Viewers saw Danielle balancing packed lunches, drop-offs, homework, and extracurricular activities, all while managing her own health challenges and running businesses alongside her husband, Adam Busby. School wasn't just part of the show. It was part of their rhythm. So when Danielle announced that the quintuplets would be transitioning to homeschooling, it naturally sparked conversation. But here's what often gets lost in online debates. Parenting decisions are rarely made overnight. Danielle explained that this wasn't a spontaneous move. It wasn't about control. It wasn't about isolation. It wasn't about convenience. It was about what she genuinely believed was best for her daughters in this season of their lives. And if there's one thing fans of OutDaughtered know, It's that Danielle does not make decisions lightly. Over the years, viewers have seen her advocate fiercely for her children, whether it was navigating developmental differences, emotional struggles, or even simply ensuring each girl feels individually seen in a house where 5 sisters share a birthday. That's not easy. Raising quintuplets means constant comparison from the outside world. It means teachers naturally observing differences. It means peers asking questions. It means balancing 5 personalities who are the same age but completely different individuals. And according to Danielle, homeschooling offered something she felt was increasingly important: flexibility. Flexibility in pace. Flexibility in emotional support. Flexibility in focusing on strengths and challenges individually. In her response to critics, Danielle made it clear that assumptions were being made without knowing the full story. She pointed out that people online often see a small snippet of life and believe they understand the full picture. But what viewers see in edited episodes or curated social media posts is only a fraction of daily reality. And that's a fair point. Reality television is called reality, but it's still produced content. Social media is real life but filtered. Parenting decisions, especially educational ones, involve conversations, evaluations, prayer, research, and sometimes tears behind closed doors. Danielle's tone in addressing the backlash wasn't offensive in a dramatic way. It was firm, grounded, confident. She essentially told critics that they were wrong to assume negligence or selfish motivation. She reminded people that she and Adam know their daughters better than anyone else does. And perhaps most importantly, she emphasized that homeschooling doesn't mean isolation. In fact, many families who homeschool actively participate in co-ops, sports leagues, church groups, dance classes, and community activities. Homeschooling in 2026 doesn't look like it did decades ago. It's often structured, collaborative, and socially engaging. But social media can sometimes reduce complex decisions into oversimplified narratives. Some commenters argued that public school builds resilience. Others suggested the girls might miss traditional milestones like classroom friendships or school events. Danielle acknowledged that every educational path has pros and cons. But she also pointed out something powerful: there is no one-size-fits-all approach to education. For some children, traditional school is thriving ground. For others, customized pacing can unlock confidence. And in a household with 5 same-age siblings, each with unique learning styles, the ability to tailor instruction could be incredibly valuable. What made this moment especially significant is how calmly Danielle stood her ground. She didn't attack critics. She didn't escalate drama. She simply said, in essence, "You don't see what we see. You don't sit at our kitchen table. You don't hear the conversations. You don't witness the struggles or the breakthroughs." And that boundary, that reminder, felt important. Because reality TV families often walk a delicate line. They invite viewers into their homes. They share vulnerable seasons. They build careers around visibility. But visibility does not erase privacy. And it certainly doesn't eliminate parental authority. Throughout OutDaughtered, Danielle has shown vulnerability about her own health battles. She has opened up about stress, exhaustion, and the pressure of raising 6 daughters. She has spoken about anxiety and the challenge of balancing motherhood with business ventures and public scrutiny. So when she says this decision was intentional and thoughtful, there's context behind that. It wasn't reactionary. It wasn't impulsive. It was maternal. And perhaps that's what resonated most strongly with longtime fans, not the controversy, but the conviction. Because love doesn't always look traditional. And parenting under a microscope adds layers most families never experience. In many ways, this backlash highlighted something bigger than homeschooling. It highlighted the modern parenting debate. Public versus private education. Structure versus flexibility. Socialization versus customization. These are conversations happening everywhere, not just in the Busby household. The difference is that most families don't have thousands of strangers weighing in. Danielle's response also revealed growth. Earlier seasons of OutDaughtered showed moments where criticism visibly affected her. But this time, her tone suggested confidence built from experience. She's been in the public eye long enough to understand that criticism is inevitable. But that doesn't mean it defines her. And it certainly doesn't dictate her parenting. Another layer to this story is how the quintuplets themselves are growing up. They're no longer toddlers in matching outfits. They're preteens developing opinions, interests, and independence. Education at that age becomes more than academics, it becomes identity formation. Danielle hinted that homeschooling allows her to stay closely connected during this transitional season. That closeness, she implied, is intentional. Critics may see control. She sees presence. And in her words, those judging from the outside are simply wrong about her motivations. It's also worth noting that Adam has publicly supported the decision. Over the years, he has consistently backed Danielle in parenting calls, even when challenges arise. Their dynamic on OutDaughtered has shown disagreements at times, but ultimately a united front. This decision appears no different. Which brings us to an important truth. Education models evolve. Families adapt. Seasons change. The girls who once clung to Danielle's legs on the first day of kindergarten are now older, more independent, and entering new phases of development. And Danielle, as their mother, is adapting alongside them. Backlash may trend for a few days online, but the real story unfolds in quiet mornings around a kitchen table, in one-on-one lessons, in confidence built through individualized attention. And whether people agree with homeschooling or not, one thing remains undeniable: Danielle Busby's decisions consistently center around what she believes is best for her daughters. Not what is easiest, not what is trendiest, not what earns applause, but what she believes is right. And in responding directly to critics with "you're wrong," she wasn't just defending homeschooling. She was defending motherhood. As the conversation around homeschooling continued to circulate online, something interesting started to happen. The initial shock began to settle, and deeper conversations started emerging. This wasn't just about one family pulling their children out of traditional school. It became a broader discussion about autonomy, parenting pressure, and what it really means to raise children in the public eye. For years on OutDaughtered, fans have watched the Busby household function almost like a well-coordinated machine. There were color-coded backpacks, labeled cubbies, carefully planned routines, and a rhythm that allowed 6 daughters to thrive. School mornings were chaotic, but structured. There was predictability. So when Danielle shifted that structure, critics interpreted it as instability. But change is not the same as chaos. In fact, Danielle explained that the decision came after recognizing subtle shifts in her daughter's needs. As children grow, their academic pressures increase. Social circles change. Emotional sensitivity becomes more pronounced. And in a family dynamic where 5 siblings share the same age and grade level, comparison can intensify. Homeschooling, in Danielle's view, offered breathing room. Room to step away from comparison. Room to slow down when needed. Room to accelerate when appropriate. And perhaps most importantly, room to nurture confidence in a way that felt deeply personal. One of the louder criticisms online centered around socialization. Would the quintuplets miss out on friendships? Would they feel isolated? Would their world shrink? Danielle addressed this directly. She reminded followers that school buildings are not the only place children build relationships. Church communities, sports teams, dance classes, neighborhood groups, and homeschool co-ops all provide interaction. Socialization is intentional, not accidental. And in many ways, homeschooling can require even more deliberate engagement with community. It also became clear that Danielle wasn't closing a door permanently. She framed the decision as a season, not a lifetime commitment. That nuance is important. Parenting often involves testing what works in one chapter and adjusting in the next. But the internet rarely leaves room for nuance. Instead, conversations quickly polarize. You're either completely right or completely wrong. You're either protecting your kids or harming them. There's very little space in between. Danielle stepped into that polarized environment and calmly said, essentially, "We're doing what works for our family right now." There's something powerful about that level of certainty, especially when you consider how long she has lived under scrutiny. Since the early days of OutDaughtered, Danielle has been analyzed her parenting style, her tone of voice, her discipline choices, her emotional reactions. When you live publicly for nearly a decade, you develop resilience. And resilience often looks like boundaries. Her response wasn't an emotional outburst. It was grounded correction. She challenged assumptions without attacking people personally. She didn't apologize for the decision. She didn't soften it to make critics more comfortable. She simply clarified. And sometimes clarification feels confrontational to those who prefer compliance. Another layer to this story is the unique nature of raising quintuplets. It's easy for outsiders to forget how rare and complex that reality is. 5 children, same age, same grade, same developmental stage, but vastly different personalities. Traditional classrooms are built around averages. Homeschooling allows deviation from averages. If one child excels in reading but struggles in math, adjustments can be immediate. If another needs emotional reassurance before academic pressure, that can be prioritized. Danielle emphasized this flexibility as one of the core benefits. And when you look back at previous seasons, you see hints that she values individual identity deeply. Each girl has always been encouraged to express preferences whether through fashion, hobbies, or personality traits. Homeschooling, in her view, extended that philosophy into academics. Meanwhile, Adam stood firmly beside her. Over the years, viewers have seen moments where parenting stress created tension between them. That's normal in any marriage, especially one navigating public life. But in this situation, unity seemed clear. Adam reinforced that decisions like this are made through long discussions, prayer, research, and observation. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't dramatic. It was strategic. Critics often assume that reality TV families chase convenience. But homeschooling 5 children is arguably more demanding than sending them to school each morning. It requires curriculum planning, time management, patience, and active teaching involvement. This wasn't Danielle choosing an easier path. It was her choosing a more hands-on one. And that distinction matters. There's also a broader cultural shift happening. Since global disruptions in education over the past several years, many families have reconsidered traditional schooling. Homeschooling numbers increased nationwide. Online curriculum platforms expanded. Community co-ops flourished. Danielle's decision exists within that larger context. But because she is public, her choice became headline material. The phrase "you're wrong" became symbolic. Not aggressive. Not cruel. Just direct. Wrong about her intentions. Wrong about her commitment. Wrong about her love. And perhaps most importantly, wrong about assuming they understand her daughter's needs better than she does. That's the heart of it. No matter how many episodes viewers have watched of OutDaughtered, no matter how many Instagram updates they've seen, they are not present for late-night homework tears, confidence struggles, quiet conversations before bed, or private moments of reflection.
Danielle is.
And that proximity changes perspective. What also stands out is how she avoided turning the backlash into prolonged drama. She didn't weaponize it for ratings. She didn't escalate conflict. After clarifying her stance, she moved forward. That quiet confidence spoke volumes. Because ultimately, this isn't about winning an internet debate. It's about raising 6 daughters into confident, emotionally secure young women. And if homeschooling for a season contributes to that goal, Danielle appears unapologetic. In fact, some longtime fans expressed admiration for her decisiveness. They saw growth, a mother who once visibly absorbed criticism, now calmly deflecting it. A woman who has learned that public approval cannot be the foundation of private parenting. There's also something humanizing about this moment. It reminds viewers that even reality stars face the same educational crossroads as countless other families. They research curriculum options. They worry about social development. They question themselves. They hope they're making the right choice. The difference is that most parents don't have comment sections dissecting every move. Danielle's story reflects a universal parenting truth. If you make decisions based on conviction, not fear, criticism becomes background noise rather than defining soundtrack. And perhaps that's what this chapter ultimately represents.
Growth.
Not just for the quintuplets, but for Danielle herself. She has evolved from a new mom overwhelmed by 5 newborns into a confident matriarch capable of withstanding national scrutiny. The cameras may have introduced her to audiences, but time has refined her. So when she says you're wrong, it carries weight. It's not defiance for attention. It's defense rooted in experience. Whether the girls eventually return to traditional school or continue homeschooling long-term remains to be seen. But one thing feels certain: the decision was made with intention. And intention matters more than internet opinion. Because at the end of the day, beyond the cameras, beyond headlines, beyond debate, there's a mother sitting at a table helping her daughters navigate multiplication, literature, faith, friendship, and self-worth.